So you tell yourself you're going to study more, do better, but then life happens and suddenly feel like a failure. Let's talk about that. If you've ever felt guilty for not studying enough, then this is the video for you. That's why you clicked on it. Here's the thing that you need to hear. That more hours does not inherently mean more progress in your language studies. I know, shocker. One of the things that I share all the time inside of Fluency Mastery Lab is that more time does not mean more progress, because you can spend tons of time running and still go nowhere. And I'm not the first to say that. Here's the reference.
Remember that just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done. Don't confuse movement with progress. My mother told me, she said, yeah, because you can run in place all the time and never get anywhere.
I was talking about a different topic, but it still applies here. For example, if you are learning kanji in Japanese, you're learning the characters, mastering the meanings and pronunciation, looking at how the kanji interact with hiragana and katakana, and making sentences and words with them, but you're supposed to be improving your speaking, you're running nowhere. Unless your goal includes texting a friend, you're not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. You're doing what I like to call productive procrastination, which means you are studying, you're just not focused on the thing that you should be focused on, and you really need to fix that. Or for example, you're trying to improve your writing, but you're not actually making any sentences. You're just studying vocabulary. Now, studying vocabulary can absolutely help you with your writing, but that's if that's the area of writing you need help with. That's usually why in my coaching sessions, I usually ask people, well, what about writing? What about speaking are you struggling with? So if we're thinking about writing, is it vocabulary? Do you just have enough words to express the thoughts that you're trying to express? Is it that you have enough words, but you don't actually know how to put those words into actual sentences that make sense? Maybe there's a writing system involved. You know the words when you hear them, but you don't actually know how to write any of them down. So you need to practice there. Maybe it's about sounding more natural, or writing more formal, writing more casual. There's so many different areas when it comes to writing. Like, what is my thought? And then how do I convey that in a way that makes sense in the language versus direct translation? So what about writing are you trying to focus on? And then are you actually doing that? Or are you just studying more so that you feel better about your progress? Because studying more doesn't mean that you're inherently going to make more progress if you're not being strategic with the things that you're doing. The second thing I want you to think about that'll hopefully help you with this fear, this guilt about not doing enough, is that it's less about spending more time. It's more about being strategic. You really want to create a system that supports your goals in making progress in all the languages that you're trying to learn. Now, what do I mean by a system? I'm thinking about all the pieces in your language studies that support you, your efforts, your progress, your time, and the energy that you're spending. And I look at it in 3 different categories. And these are the same categories that I teach everyone inside of Fluency Mastery Lab: fluency practice, progress reflection, strategic planning. So fluency practice is essentially, are you practicing the skills that you're trying to build? Have you chosen resources and skills that help you to do that? I didn't just create these 3 pillars because I think that my way is the best way to learn languages and the only way to learn languages, but it's literally because it's what many of us do in our language studies, especially those people that you admire on social media, online. It's what we actually do to make progress. We focus on fluency practice. For example, we're not going to do listening, reading, writing, speaking, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation all at the same time. We're going to choose a couple of them to focus on, or a few of them to focus on. And if you work with me, you know that I tend to say max 3 as your main skills or your focus skills, and the other ones are your maintenance skills. Just like we have some that are your focus languages and others that are your maintenance languages. So you're also choosing resources and strategies that help you to build those skills. And then you're thinking about more practices that you might want to add in to make things even better for you. So things like intensive versus extensive reading or listening. Are you focused on one thing for an extended period of time, going over it again and again to really understand it before you move on? Or are you reading or listening extensively? You're listening to lots of things over time just to get the gist of it, and then you're moving on. So then when we think about progress reflection is knowing what worked and didn't work for you, and knowing how to adjust your plan, your schedule, and your routine. These are things that successful language learners do in their language studies. And I say successful, meaning people who are using the languages that they are learning. So things like checking your progress to see where you've improved and where you have not improved, reviewing things that you've learned over time to see, do I still know these things? Do I still understand them? Why or why not? Let's fix that if I don't. And then adjusting your plan, your schedule, your routine to make it even better for the next round round of studying or for your future study sessions. When it comes to strategic planning, that's all about that plan, that schedule, routines. Do you have one that's going to help you make progress without burning out and without feeling overwhelmed? If not, you want to focus on that. So this is all about figuring out what languages to focus on, especially if you are like me and many of the people that I work with who are learning multiple languages. I have some people inside of Fluency Mastery Lab learning 5 languages, 3 languages, some that are focused on 2. And then you have me that's at 11. What languages are you going to focus on? Because you can't do all 15, not at the same time with the same amount of bandwidth. You really got to give yourself the time and space to do bits and pieces here and there and maintain the others. And so during our weekly accountability, in many of the resources inside of the community, I'm talking about your focus languages versus your maintenance languages and how to do those things effectively. Maybe you're setting goals for your language studies, or you're like many of the learners that I've seen over the past few years who have switched out of setting goals and have started to set habits instead. What I teach is a little bit of both, because I say you can learn a language without goals, but you can't learn a language without habits. I look at goals as milestones to tell you if you're moving in the right direction in your language studies. So I still like to set them, but I don't set them rigidly. I don't set them and say I have to reach that. I set it to go, this is where I want to go. If I stray off the path, I look back at the goal and I go, am I still going in that direction? Why or why not? Is that still the goal, or do I need to change it? So it's really just a way to keep myself focused and on track. And that's what I teach everybody. In this strategic planning stage, we're also always working on that plan, that schedule, that routine. Now, the short of it is that the plan is the what and the why. The schedule is the where and the when, and the routine is the how and puts it all together. And so figuring out all those pieces, like, do you know what you're doing and why you're doing it? Do you know where and when you're going to be doing these things? How much flexibility or rigid structure do you need? Do you know how it's all going to get done? How are you going to make this a routine, a habit in your day-to-day life? If you don't know those things, then you might need to focus on the strategic planning. And then the last thing that I want to bring to your attention, if you are feeling guilt around your language studies, is that progress looks different for everyone. We all have different circumstances. We all have different experiences. We all have different factors that impact our language studies. Our experience with learning languages in general, learning specific languages, learning languages in the same family, maybe learning a skill, right? Because if you've ever learned anything at all that is skill-based, then you might have a different experience with someone who learning languages is the first time they've ever put forth their own personal effort into a thing. And maybe that's you, and that's okay. But your experience is very different than someone else's, which is why I always recommend people don't follow other people's plans. Because if you adopt someone's plan word for word, bit for bit, line for line, and it doesn't work for you, oftentimes people are not thinking, okay, let me adapt it to work for me. They're going, why is it not working for me? There's something wrong with me, because it works for them, but it's not working for me. Why? And there's nothing wrong with you. You are just a different person, and that's okay. Now, what I shift people over into is, how can I make it work for me? Maybe you just struggle to work with a blank screen and a blank page. You didn't know where to start. You use someone's plan and you adjust from there. Okay, I actually don't like that app. I want to decrease the time because they're in college and I have 2 part-time jobs. Or I'm in college with 2 part-time jobs, so my time is different. And you adjust based on you versus trying to mirror what someone else is doing with different circumstances. The big reason why I caution people from following someone's plan directly is because we do that. And then when it doesn't work, you start to feel like crap. You start to feel like crap because you're like, maybe something's wrong with me, which there isn't. Or you decide to give up entirely because you're like, maybe I'm too old for this. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this, which is wrong, by the way. So what do you need in your language studies right now in order to make progress? Remember, even just 1%. And so if you're tired of feeling guilty about not doing enough in your language studies, and you want a clear, reliable system for making that progress, and not just a reliable system, but you're like, okay, I recognize that I can focus on fluency practice or strategic planning or progress reflection, but I don't know which one to do, and I don't even know how to do that. And if you're someone who is saying, I really want some more coaching around my language studies, I need help figuring out what works best for me and embracing that, and then getting the accountability to keep moving forward. I want some of those things to help me have more fun and give myself more grace. Then Fluency Mastery Lab is exactly what you want. And the light tier of our community is open anytime. So link is in the description. Pro is usually on a wait list. I open it up a couple times a year. If you want to be first to hear when the doors open for Pro, make sure to join the waitlist. I'll put that in the description as well. But really, I just want to make sure that you have what you need, whether it is watching videos here on my channel to support you and grabbing some of my free content and resources. Do what works best for you. But if you're ready for support from me to walk you through those pillars and to have a community behind you for accountability, my coaching, and also just that motivation, because a lot of times it's hard to self-motivate, but it is easy to be motivated when someone else is putting forth the expectations for you, then definitely join us inside of Fluency Mastery Lab, and I would love to have you inside. So if you are ready to let go of study guilt, I want you to like this video, and then I want you to comment below which of those areas are you going to focus on in your language studies: fluency practice, progress reflection, or strategic planning. I'll even give a list of some videos on my channel related to those pillars to help you along the way. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.